Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the best place for the best takes. I'm Benjamin Cure. This is the Benjamin Cure Show on a Monday where I've got to be honest, I am feeling awesome. More so than Mondays or a usual Monday. I'm usually pretty happy on Mondays, but this Monday feels extra special. A great weekend of games. December sports have never been better, in my opinion. I've got some personal news that's cooking up, some good news to share maybe in the next couple weeks that I'm really excited about. That's the reason this show is coming out a little bit later in the day, to be honest. Had some Zoom calls, had some meetings earlier in the day that needed to get sorted out. But just know that I'm very excited about the future. It is not going to replace this show. It is an opportunity that is in addition to this show. So very excited about that. And beyond that, let's just get started with the show. I can't tell you too much about it, so I'm not going to harp on it. Before we get started, though, shout out to the Christopher Columbus Explorers, my high school, my alma mater. This past Friday, they won their second straight state championship in football. Alberto Mendoza, their starting quarterback, who is now a senior, he just got recruited. He's been getting recruited today after decommitting a couple weeks ago from JMU. He just committed to Indiana. Congratulations to him. I was texting him this morning and I was like, hey, just wanted to make sure when I shout you guys out on the show, what's your recruiting status looking like? A couple minutes later, he posted, hey, I'm committed to Indiana. So congratulations to him. Fun fact, his older brother, Fernando Mendoza, he was a guest on this show. He is the starting quarterback for the Cowboys. He's been cooking all year. Congratulations to that family. Congratulations to both brothers. I'm sure Alberto is going to do great in college football, just like his older brother is. They're a great family. I've known them for a couple years, more than a couple years now. But I think you just love to see great people succeed and do great things. So very happy for that family. Very happy for the Columbus family, the Columbus Explorers. Dave Dunn, the head coach of that football program, which ever since he came in midway through me being in high school, I believe he became the head coach of the team when I was a sophomore in Columbus. He's just done absolutely great things. And the Columbus football program has always been great, but he's just taken it to another level where it feels like, and maybe this pressure isn't a good pressure to have, but he is a great coach, so I'm sure he expects it and he knows it. It feels weird when Columbus doesn't win the state championship in football now. So very proud to be an Explorer. Glad to say that we accomplished that. I consider myself to be a part of that we, as I am an alumni, and we have an excellent alumni base that has given me so many different opportunities over the years, which I've talked about on this show before. Very grateful to everyone involved in that, of course, and very happy to be a Columbus Explorer on this Monday morning, as we always are. Let's talk about the weekend's games, and let's start with the biggest brand in football, whom if you've watched this show, you probably think, oh, Ben's a Cowboys hater. Not so fast. I simply have felt like I need to be in a position where I need to temper expectations about the Cowboys in the past, but we're not tempering any expectations today. Today, I'm going to get a little bit annoying because I have never at any point in my life been like, I'm going to buy in on the Cowboys. This Monday is totally different. This Cowboys team could very well end up playing in a Super Bowl this year and win the entire thing. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not clowning. I'm not joking around. I think this Cowboys team is the second best team from a roster construction standpoint in the NFL right now. And in my opinion, I've always been very open when I believe I'm right about something or wrong about something. The praise needs to be just as loud as the criticism. Dak Prescott is the favorite to win the MVP as of this Monday morning, and he absolutely deserves it. For months on this show now, because we've only been around for 18 months, this audience, and I appreciate all of you who have been around since the beginning, but I've always said my criticism of Dak Prescott is the main thing that I've always said is Dak Prescott to me is not a top 10 quarterback. And people have always said, of course Dak's top 10. He's probably closer to 9 or 10, but he's top 10. And I've always relented saying, I believe Kirk Cousins is better, or I believe another quarterback at 9 is a little bit better than he is. A better decision maker, a safer option, a better option in my opinion. And I didn't always feel this way about Dak. The first 2 years of his career in the NFL, Dak Prescott, the reason he got paid really was because of his dual threat nature, right? His use of his legs. He wasn't necessarily Lamar Jackson. I didn't need Dak Prescott as a fan or as a viewer to rush for 30, 40, or 50 yards a game. I didn't need Dak to be Lamar Jackson. What made him special in the dual threat nature of his game was he could use his legs to extend the play to buy another half second or second when the pressure was coming in, when the protection was breaking down. He was able to extend plays. That was kind of absent from his game. That element of his game, that dual threat nature of his game was absent after he was injured, after that ankle injury. And it kind of disappeared. And for months on the show, I said, I think Dak Prescott's afraid to rush. I think he's afraid to use his legs after that injury. And maybe afraid or scared was the wrong word to use. But I think I think this is not a hot take. He, in my opinion, was reluctant to use his legs to extend the plays. We saw under Kellen Moore's play calling. And to be honest, Kellen Moore is no longer there. He's the OC of the Chargers, who are struggling right now. Maybe Kellen Moore just didn't game plan for Dak Prescott's strengths. I don't know what to tell you at this point. But Dak Prescott, over the past 2 months, has started using his legs once again. He has become the dual threat quarterback that he was earlier in his career that had been kind of absent over the past 2 years when he became a turnover machine. Why was that the case? If you force Dak Prescott to be just a pocket passer, I don't believe he's elite. That's where he's going to make mistakes. That's where he's going to look bad. And you saw that over the past couple of years when he was, rightfully so, called a turnover machine on this program and on others. He was leading the league, or he was one of the top leaders in the race for most turnovers over a certain stretch. That has changed now over the past 2 months, over the past 6 weeks maybe, now that Dak Prescott is using his legs more. And call it the West Coast offense, call it Mike McCarthy finally feeling comfortable with Dak and understanding him as a player, call it Dak just feeling like he's up against the wall in a contract year and saying, you know what, I'm going to leave it all out on the field. Whatever the case may be, Dak Prescott has turned a new leaf, and he looks like old Dak, the Dak from the first year or two in the league. The reason that Dak Prescott was paid, because as a dual threat quarterback, he is one of the top 10 quarterbacks in this league. When he uses his legs to extend the play, when the pocket breaks down, when the protection just isn't there, when there's impending pressure and impending doom, Dak Prescott's use of his legs, he can move, he can evade the pocket, he can get out of there, and he can slip away from danger, and he can find the wide open man, and he can make the right decision. You've seen him do it now a couple weeks in a row. That is the old Dak Prescott. I am willing to wrap my arms around this Dak Prescott and say, yeah, he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, and he's definitely the leader of the MVP race as of this Monday morning. I'll show you the Vegas Insider graphic, which shows the leaders of the MVP race in terms of betting odds in just a couple moments. But I think it is fair, like I said, the praise should be just as loud as the criticism. I've criticized Dak Prescott a lot on this show for not being a top 10 quarterback, or not living up to expectations, or to that contract, or to being afraid to run the ball. That's all disappeared over the past 6 weeks, in my opinion. He is starting to run the ball. He is extending the play with his legs, even if he's not scrambling for 30 and 40 and 50 yards a game like a Lamar Jackson, and it doesn't appear in the box score. You can see it in the tape. Dak Prescott is comfortable now to, hey, there's some pressure coming in. I don't have to stay in the pocket. I'm not Tom Brady. I'm not a quarterback who lacks mobility. I can kind of move out of the way here and evade pressure, and I can keep this play going and see if one of my guys are open downfield. He has made the right decision on almost all of those plays over the past couple weeks. He deserves our praise just as loudly as he received our criticism. So I want to talk about Jerry Jones a little bit, because Jerry has been criticized a lot, sometimes even on the show by me, admittedly so, for being a suspect general manager. And I feel like that's one of those things that I haven't criticized Jerry for his general manager abilities. I've criticized him for his awful takes, in my opinion, where he says things that just aren't factually correct or aren't based in reality. But Jerry Jones deserves credit as a general manager for what he has built in Dallas. Because when you think about Jerry Jones, the general manager, he drafted Deron Bland, who right now is having an excellent year, is probably the leader of the Defensive Player of the Year race right now. The second player who's in the top 5 for MVP or for Defensive Player of the Year odds is Micah Parsons, a guy that he drafted as well. He drafted Trayvon Diggs, who is injured right now, is not playing, but was an excellent pick. Nobody doubts that he's one of the best corners in the league at this point. He drafted countless great offensive linemen. He drafted Zeke, who was great in his prime, even if he's not as good now as he was then. He was forced to move off him, of course. He drafted Tony Pollard. He drafted CeeDee Lamb. People forget, the CeeDee Lamb versus Jerry Jeudy thing during the draft was real. People considered Jerry Jeudy to be the elite route runner and CeeDee Lamb to be the elite playmaker, but there was debate over who should be taken first. To Jerry Jones' credit, he decided to go with CeeDee Lamb. He made the pick. The pick is in, and it was the right pick. Last but not least, he drafted Dak Prescott. He found him in the 3rd round when he already had Tony Romo, even if Romo was at the end of his career and not necessarily the beginning. Jerry Jones deserves a lot of credit as a GM in a league where there's a lot of new owners and a lot of new money and a lot of people who want change and success right away, like the David Teppers of the world, who are recent owners who just want to win and who want to fire every single coach that doesn't have 10 wins in their first year. He stuck with Jason Garrett for a long time. He stuck with Mike McCarthy, even if most of us thought maybe that wasn't necessarily the best move. He is stuck by his decision to pay Dak Prescott and to have him be the starting quarterback in the NFL. And let me be honest, I don't hate Dak Prescott. I've criticized him as a player, but I've always said this on the show as well. My caveat has always been, I think Dak Prescott's a great person. So with him doing very well now, it is very easy to root for him and to admit, you know what? I don't think I was necessarily wrong, because my caveat to the Dak Prescott thing was he's not using his legs anymore. He has started using his legs, and so now he looks better. But I think it is also safe to say that Dak Prescott is finally coming out of his shell. He is looking like he looked in his first 2 years in the NFL, and it's very easy for me to get behind that Cowboys team and root for them, because as of this point, I genuinely think when it comes to ranking the top teams in the NFL from a roster construction standpoint and from coaching, and you just look at these teams and their performances, it's the 49ers, it's the Cowboys, it's the Eagles, it's the Lions. All NFC teams that I believe are incredibly complete. And I know maybe we expected more AFC teams to be in that top 5 or to be in the top 10, but because of quarterback injuries and a lack of overall talent beyond the quarterback position, the AFC kind of feels obsolete this year. The best action, the best teams, the best quarterbacks, the best playmakers at this point are in the NFC. Credit to the NFC for sticking through all the criticism, for the coaches, for the quarterbacks who have felt kind of undervalued. All of those guys are really cooking this year. Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, and dare I even say Jalen Hurts a little bit, who received a lot of criticism in the offseason and is receiving a lot now. He's not playing his best football. Obviously, that wasn't his best game. He's in a rough patch right now, but all of those guys are better than we gave them credit for going into the year. And I gave guys like Brock Purdy and Jared Goff a lot of credit going into the year. Of course, Dak Prescott, not as much, but I've come around on him, and I genuinely am so excited to see what this Cowboys team can do in the postseason, because I think they, from a roster construction standpoint, are a top 1, top 2 team in the league. I think the 49ers, on a day in and day out basis, one game to win it, are the better team. They're more physical, but let me tell you, it's going to be a hell of a matchup when those two teams face off against each other once again. Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy, the 49ers, and the Cowboys. I apologize. I was forgetting the team names. I am very excited about Dak Prescott. I think he's playing well. Let's take a look now at the Vegas Insider list. The top MVP odds, the leaders of the MVP race at this point. So Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Tua, Jalen, Lamar, Tyreek, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey. Now, looking at this list, why is Christian McCaffrey so far down the list? Christian McCaffrey should not be behind Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes in the MVP odds race this year. That's insane. In my opinion, the list should be Dak Prescott, Tyreek Hill, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, Tua, Lamar Jackson. Maybe Lamar deserves to be a little bit higher on that list, but to me, I like Jalen Hurts. I like Patrick Mahomes. I like Josh Allen. I support superstar quarterbacks, and I defend them sometimes to a fault, admittedly so, but those three guys aren't playing MVP football right now, and they don't deserve to be higher on the list than a Christian McCaffrey or a Tyreek Hill. That's ridiculous to me. The fact that Christian McCaffrey is, I'm not very good at math, but I'm counting here in the spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 guys ahead of Christian McCaffrey on this list. He's the 9th guy on the MVP odds favorite list. This is a compilation of odds from all the books. If you're looking for our visual audience, you can see the graphic. I apologize for audio-only audience who can't see this. But yeah, Christian McCaffrey absolutely deserves to be higher on this list. I can't believe that Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts are higher than Christian McCaffrey according to the books. I understand it's a quarterback-oriented league. I'll be the first to say it. Last year I said only a quarterback will ever win the award. I said that on the show. It received a lot of heat in a year where Justin Jefferson was absolutely cooking. But still, the fact that Christian McCaffrey in a year like this isn't higher on this list, and the fact that he's behind Brock Purdy, I don't necessarily love that. I think these books are starting to favor quarterbacks a little bit too much, even if it is a quarterback award at this point in the NFL's history. Very interesting pick there, but excited to see how it plays out. And yeah, interesting MVP race for sure. So like I said just moments ago, sometimes, I'll admit it, I defend superstar quarterbacks to a fault. The Patrick Mahomes of the world, the Josh Allens, the Jalen Hurts, the Justin Herberts. Yesterday was not a good day. Sunday was not a good day for Patrick Mahomes. That was a really ugly look for him. That was not his shining moment. That wasn't his best moment. That was an ugly moment for Patrick Mahomes, for all fans to see across the world in what was not a primetime game, but was certainly a highly televised game on CBS. That throwing the tantrum on the sidelines, the complaining, throwing a tantrum about the call, whatever you think of the Chiefs, whether you think they're overrated or that their fans are bandwagons or that they get calls from the refs, that was a fair call. Kadarius Toney was offsides by a couple inches, however many inches it was. He was offsides, and one of the referees literally after the game said he was blocking our view of the play before the play started. I have no obligation to warn him if he's that far off the line. So obviously the flag was thrown right away. Was it awful as a fan after watching that play to think, man, Travis Kelce made a hell of a play? Everybody said it. It would be the first play shown in his Hall of Fame ceremony the day he's inducted. Unfortunately, that play doesn't count, and that play may be forgotten or washed away because of the fact that it was not a completed play or that it didn't count. Mahomes crying on the sidelines, complaining, and going up to Josh Allen after the game and continuing to say one of the worst calls I've ever seen. If you look at the video of the 13-second comeback from Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship against Josh Allen a couple years ago, and you see how Josh Allen reacted in that video, how much class he showed, although he was upset, and of course I'm sure he was frustrated. I'm sure he had plenty of curse words and upset things that came to mind and things that he wanted to say. He made sure to give Patrick Mahomes his time and give him his credit because he won the game. The Kansas City Chiefs won that game. He exuded class in that moment. Patrick Mahomes, I love him as a player. I think he's the best quarterback in the league, even though he is struggling. But man, that was a bad look. That was not good sportsmanship. Patrick Mahomes looked like a sore loser in that moment. I didn't love that look for the face of the league. And I know Tom Brady has had moments where infamously now we've always heard about it with the Ryan Fitzpatricks of the world or the Nick Foles where he doesn't want to shake their hands or where he's a sore loser after the game. I get it. Sometimes it creeps up on you in a bad moment, in a frustrating moment. But man, that wasn't a good look for a guy in Patrick Mahomes, the star of the league, the face of the league, who has beat Josh Allen before in highly contentious games. Josh Allen has given him his respect in the past. Why doesn't Patrick Mahomes in that moment show Josh Allen his respect? I get it. It's frustrating. He felt like he had the right of way on that call. He did not. The call was correct. It was just. Kadarius Toney was offsides, in my opinion. In every video you've seen, his foot is an inch or two forward, more so than it should be. The head referee came out after the game and said, yeah, I have no obligation to warn Kadarius Toney when he's that far over the line. I can't even see the ball. I mean, I didn't love that look from Patrick Mahomes. And to me, this is what separates the greats from the greatest. I said on this show, Patrick Mahomes deserved his contract extension to become the highest paid quarterback in the league over the next 4 years. That restructure that Kansas City did about 2 weeks into the season with him. I was the first one on the show to say he was the 8th highest paid quarterback in the league before that deal. That was unacceptable. It was a bad look. But by the same token, we have to be careful with, I apologize, I just got a text message. We have to be careful with a deserve league or what the difference between a deserved league and a earned league, right? Like that is a dynamic and a phrase and a concept that sneaks its way into sports all the time, and that is a dangerous mentality to have. Does Patrick Mahomes deserve to be the highest paid quarterback in the league? Absolutely. But is it the best thing? Is it in his best interest to be the highest paid quarterback if he really wants to go down as one of the greatest of all time? And it's not about the money in itself. It's about the fact that we are in a salary cap league in the NFL, and that Patrick Mahomes now has one of the highest cap hits in the NFL, a top 3 cap hit, the highest cap hit in the NFL this year, and a top 3 cap hit until the year 2027. 2028 is the first time that Patrick Mahomes is not in the 3 top cap hits in the league in several years. So when you look at that and you think about that and you really process how big of a number that is in your head, Mahomes made $20 million in endorsements in 2022. He didn't need to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. Maybe he's still going to make $60 million total or $70 million when you include everything. Maybe you take $10 million less on the field to make sure that your team has the flexibility to put players around you. Kansas City, to their credit, has drafted some great guys, some guys that right now are really cheap that work out well for them on defense, on offense, in particular Isaiah Pacheco, who they're not paying yet, who's been an integral part of that Kansas City Chiefs offense. But by the same token, that pass catchers unit is absolutely anemic. And Kadarius Toney, a player who's consistently made mistakes and been the bane of the Kansas City Chiefs' existence, he's great on special teams, but in the receiving game, my God, the guy can't do anything right. He makes constant mistakes. He's an undisciplined football player. The penalties always rain down on him at the wrong time. That is his fault. Maybe it's an inopportune time, and Patrick Mahomes was frustrated with the call at that point in the game, but it doesn't negate the fact that Kadarius Toney continues to make the wrong decision and make the wrong play and be in the wrong place at the wrong time in the worst moment possible. It's his fault. So the Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion, you had to pay Mahomes. I get it. It was a bad look, 8th highest paid, but be careful when you talk about he deserved it. Sure, a lot of people deserve a lot of things, but a lot of people don't get it. And a lot of people who deserve things are willing to take less, especially in sports, if it means building a better team around them. Brady did it for years. That's a stark difference at this point right now. One of the early differences you can tell between Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. Tom Brady was always willing to take less to build a better team. Patrick Mahomes just re-upped his contract. A new restructure makes him the highest paid quarterback in the league over the next 4 years. Doesn't look so good right now. Doesn't look so good when your lead receiver is Rashee Rice out of SMU, who has played well, but by the same token had a key fumble. And Kadarius Toney, who was a nice trade last year from the Giants. They got him pretty much dirt cheap, but beyond being a good special teams player, is an absolute disaster of a player on the offensive side of the ball and is a constant thorn in the Kansas City Chiefs side. I mean, Cole Hardman is on IR right now, and guys are injured, and guys are young, and it's just not meshing well. This is an indicator of this is a separator of what separates the greats from the greatest. And right now, Mahomes is showing he's got to do more with less. Can he? Brady always did. And I'll just leave you with that. The Prince of Baseball has made his decision. Over the weekend, Shohei Ohtani posted to his own Instagram account and announced that for the foreseeable future, for the next 10 years, he would be donning an LA Dodgers jersey. He's going to be a Dodger. So congrats to him. He absolutely deserved it. I know I just said in the last segment, we got to be careful with the word deserve. I do think it is different, though. While both Patrick Mahomes and Shohei Ohtani deserved their contracts, you have to understand the business side of things, which are very different between baseball and football, the NFL and the MLB. And the MLB, there's no salary cap. In the NFL, there is. So you got to be mindful of that. But let's focus on Shohei Ohtani. Fox Sports MLB, their Twitter account, their X account, put out this graphic of the top 10 biggest contracts in MLB history. Obviously, Mike Trout, his huge contract, 12 years, $426 million. Now that feels like it's dwarfed. Now it feels like it's this big compared to Shohei Ohtani's huge deal of $700 million. So obviously, these contracts in baseball are tough. And I had the honor of interviewing early in my sports broadcasting career. Several years ago, I interviewed Alex A-Rod Rodriguez in a sit-down interview, the former Yankee third baseman. And he's a Miami native. He had one of these, at the time when he was in the MLB, he signed one of these massive contracts. He was one of the poster childs of getting paid in baseball. And one thing that I feel like I've always heard him say over the years, and it has always stuck with me, and it is not a fear of mine, but something that I do acknowledge when it comes to MLB contracts. It is so hard to live up to the expectations of these massive contracts in baseball because there's no salary cap and because the owners are so wealthy and because the roster isn't like football. You're not paying 60 guys on a team. You're paying only 11, really. You're really only paying 11 guys big money and maybe even one of those guys like huge money. In this case, it's Shohei Ohtani, $70 million a year for the next 10 years, $700 million, even though more than half of that will go to taxes and his agent. Unfortunately, that's just the world we live in. But let's be careful with the fans who are upset on Twitter because they didn't get Shohei Ohtani and their team didn't get Shohei Ohtani and they already want to hate. In baseball, it is so hard to live up to these contracts that I feel like people are saying, if they don't win 5 World Series, it wasn't worth it. Let's calm down. Baseball, there's no salary cap. Owners can spend whatever they feel is necessary. Shohei Ohtani, in my opinion, if Shohei Ohtani wins just 1 World Series, this contract will be worth it. And I understand that that's hard for baseball fans who are typically from an older generation. It's hard for those guys to hear, especially because most fans are working class people. And $700 million seems like an insane number that we can't even begin to fathom. It is, by a lot of accounts, people would say it's a disgusting number. And I don't think it's necessarily that, but it is certainly a big number. And I just want people to steer clear from blaming these baseball players who have worked very hard their entire lives. And I normally don't defend, I defend players a lot, right? I don't think I'm an anti-player broadcaster, but by the same token, I normally don't defend players getting a huge sum of money, especially if it affects the rest of the team. But in baseball, with its history, I am okay with Shohei Ohtani getting this contract, and with the reality that if he wins just one World Series with the Dodgers, it's all worth it, because baseball, it is so hard to win. It is so hard even for the teams who are willing to spend the most. It is almost impossible to buy a championship. Ask the Mets last year. There are countless other examples throughout baseball history over the past couple years as well. It is not as easy as saying, I'm writing a blank check, we're going to go win a World Series. In my opinion, I am only here to temper expectations for baseball fans, for Dodgers fans, for Shohei Ohtani fans. I love him as a player, but in my opinion, if he wins just one World Series, it's worth it. Because in baseball, it is hard to win, and I think fans fail to realize just how hard it is to live up to the expectations of these massive contracts in baseball. It was deserved. He absolutely deserved this contract. I'm happy for Shohei Ohtani. I'm glad he got paid. I'm glad he's going to have a chance to win now with a great team around him and a great front office. But let's not just assume that they're going to go on this insane winning streak in LA and that they're going to win the next 3 out of the next 4 World Series. That's not realistic. If he wins just one in the next 10 years, it'll be worth it. I know it's hard for fans to hear, but that is the reality of the MLB. So I know that a lot of fans clowned it initially when it came out and the news and the idea was proposed, but the in-season tournament, by all accounts, was a success for the NBA. The biggest brand, the biggest star, ended up getting the win. And I know people said, well, college basketball style tournament, March Madness style, I mean, I guess one game to win, it could be interesting, but it's in the middle of the season, and nobody thinks that that is going to replace the NBA championship in terms of value or awe or greatness, so nobody's going to care. On the contrary, these players were fighting for their lives, and I know we all think of LeBron James as a billionaire, and he's very successful, but even he joked around, yeah, the money's an incentive, and credit to Adam Silver, credit to the NBA, and at the end, the biggest brand won it. And I think it's really interesting when you look at the significance of this in-season tournament and who won it, because at the end of the day, it is the Lakers, and it is LeBron, and it is AD, and it is Austin Reeves, and it is Darvin Ham, a team that we have criticized for not being as deep as we think they could be in terms of comparing them to other teams. And I know the Lakers aren't necessarily the title favorite, nor should they be after winning the in-season tournament. But LeBron James and AD and Darvin Ham and that entire Lakers roster really proved, hey, maybe a 7-game series is going to be tough in the postseason, and we don't know what happens then. But on a one game, on a night in and night out basis, one game to win it, to advance, everything on the line, college basketball March Madness style tournament, we've got your number, and we can beat any team in the NBA on one night and one night only. LeBron James and AD and this Lakers team should feel very confident going into the rest of the season, knowing, hey, even if the in-season tournament isn't an NBA championship in July, this shows us that we're one of the best teams in the league already. And if we can just find our footing and we can stay healthy, and guys like AD can stay healthy and not be so hit or miss on a night in or night out basis, and LeBron James can rely on other guys to put up points, and he can be the excellent facilitator that he is while still getting to the rim and getting his own points and filling up the box score on his own stat sheet, this Lakers team could be a team to compete with because of the history, the youth, and the playmaking that they have. I don't think they should be a title favorite in the future, but I do think that this Lakers team is an excellent squad and that they should not be overlooked as they have been over the past couple of months. They're going to be one of the last teams standing, in my opinion. I don't know that they're going to go to the finals or the Western Conference finals, but make no mistake, this Lakers team is going to be in the mix, especially if LeBron James and AD and those guys can stay healthy and they can have a full squad to compete with on a night in and night out basis over the course of a 7-game series. Congratulations to LeBron. Congratulations to the Lakers. I think that this in-season tournament and the result holds a little bit more value than people are letting on. With that being said, we've got a great lineup of a doubleheader, really, of Monday Night Football games tonight. I am going to pull up my picks right now because I actually forgot them, and being totally transparent. Miami Dolphins, Tennessee Titans. I'm taking the Miami Dolphins. I think that one's self-explanatory. And Green Bay Packers versus the New York Giants. I feel good about Jordan Love and this Packers team. They're finally starting to find their footing. Really proud of how the organization has turned things around, how they're developing for the future. I'm going to go with the Packers in this game. I think both of those are probably huge favorites. So I'm not really giving a hot take, but I'm going to go with the favorites tonight. I think it is very obvious. Dolphins, Packers, both get the win on a doubleheader on Monday Night Football, ESPN, ABC. I can't wait to watch it. For those of you who have stayed tuned, I really appreciate it. Quick note here before we go. this is so cringy and maybe I shouldn't do it, but I feel like you guys are not fans, but friends. So I think it's important to share this. I've kind of been ignoring it, but the 14th, this Thursday, I didn't even know what day it was. December 14th is my birthday, and I'm going to be turning 20 years old. And so for me, it is a really important day. It's a really big day, because I feel like even if it's just a number and, it's just one more trip around the sun, I am so incredibly appreciative to all of you who watch the show, for those of you who have supported the show, to Believe, to my current employer, Live Take, to the other opportunities that I have in the mix, for constantly, and former and previous opportunities like Enter Miami CF, for giving me the opportunity to be able to grow and learn. This is a career path that honestly, I've always kind of said it behind closed doors. Sports broadcasting is a tough business to break into, and it is an industry that, whether fair or not, is built on trust, as all news really is, and broadcast journalism in general, and like hard news and in sports. And trust sort of goes hand in hand, whether it's fair or unfair, with age. And so as someone younger, that's never really worked to my advantage. Haven't necessarily been taken seriously in all of the opportunities that I've had over the years. It hasn't always been the easiest. But I appreciate those who have stuck with me for sticking with me. I appreciate all those who over time have given me an opportunity and extended a hand. And the fact that I'm only 20 years old, obviously very young in this industry, still have a long time to go, still have a lot of life ahead of me. But just very thankful to everyone who has supported me over the years. This Thursday, with everything that's going on, like I said at the beginning of the show, there are certain dreams of mine that I thought in this industry I would have to wait years to achieve, like this show and the opportunity that is cooking up currently that, once again, don't want to really talk about it, but kind of have to. Opportunities that I thought just a year ago, like, I've already been doing this for 6 or 7 years. What is the end all be all? Like, am I going to have to grind for another 10 years before I even sniff a little bit of the goal that I want or some of the dreams that I have? And luckily, a lot of the things that I've hoped for and that I've dreamed about and that I've worked hard for over the past couple of years have started to come to fruition in a really interesting way and in a very interesting time for sure. So I appreciate all those. Like I said, don't want to be a broken record here, but know that the gist of my rambling session here is I appreciate everyone, all of my friends who have watched this show, who have supported, all of those people who, younger and older, have supported this show from afar, who have given it a chance, who have sponsored the show, who have partnered with the show. Little last note here. With Believe, the show is now available as an audio exclusive on Apple and on Spotify. And I was listening to it, and some ads popped up in the middle of the episode, and it was like a surreal moment for me because it just proves, hey, this dream of mine that I did in my living room, it's got some legs. And the show itself is not just a show like a lot of people out there have, but it is a proof of concept, and it is profitable. And just very thankful this week with everything that's going on, the holiday season. I'm out of school right now because we're on break, of course. I'll be back in January. But I'm going to be focused on this show and on opportunities over the next couple weeks. And I know it's the holiday season and everybody is really busy at this time of year. And we all want to get together with our family. But know that I consider you guys to be family and that I am so grateful to anyone who has ever watched, listened, or tuned in for the show. And I'm going to cut out this rambling session. But I appreciate you guys. Some excellent games tonight. We are in December. It is an excellent month of sports. Thank you so much for staying tuned. I hope you will next week. I'll be back on Monday. No worries. This vacation, this break from school is not going to mean a break from the show. And so, I'll stay tuned with you guys. Appreciate you all. I will see you back here next Monday.